Go, Peter, you're on.
Hi, everybody. My name is Peter Torraca. I am the manager of aircraft restoration here at the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum. I'm here with my assistant, Kate Good, who's seated in the rear cockpit. And we are doing some final detail cleaning of these two cockpits before this aircraft goes back out on the display line outdoors at the beginning of next week. So
tell us about the aircraft that you're in. We didn't mention it.
Yeah, this helicopter. This is a Vietnam era helicopter that was developed as a troop support helicopter. And played an important role in Vietnam and other conflicts. It has been used or upgraded, I should say, over the years. We are seated in a AH-1J model, and it has gone through many iterations, and presently the Marines and the Navy are using the AH-1Z model to give you an idea of the number of changes that have taken place.
So what are the final touches that you have to do today?
All we're doing today is we're giving all of the components a final cleanup before we seal the cockpit and bring it outdoors. We did some cleaning, or actually I shouldn't take credit for it. Kate did a thorough cleaning of this, but that was all pre-pandemic and nearly, probably over a year ago. But I want it to look great when it goes out there. We have two other pieces of an aircraft and a piece of equipment in here. They are all leaving on Monday and Tuesday of next week. And then we're going to do a thorough cleaning of the inside of the facility and bring another aircraft in here.
All right, I'm just going to pull out a little bit and have a look around the aircraft, and I'll come back in just a moment.
Oh, that's great.
The inside windows are absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I think I'm going to work on that too.
I mean, I'm getting like black handprints.
Well, to be honest, I thought you had done this last year. I did. Alcohol or just water? You happen to have any water back there?
I do not.
How's it going, Kate?
It's pretty good. These are gross. So I'm focusing on the glass and everything right now. And then most of in here, I vacuumed earlier. That's why this is in here. Because underneath the seats and underneath the front of the cockpit here has a lot of just debris and things. And we've had this open quite a bit while we've been working on it. So I tried to make sure that it was just essentially taking out dust and other dirt and debris, because as we work, we make a lot of mess. So like Peter said, that's why when everything goes out, we're going to do a thorough cleaning, especially the floor, because there's dust, there's compound. I just sprayed paint, so dust came from that. So yeah, that's really that's a major part of this is cleaning, which takes, how long on average do you think it takes to clean the hangar
In the hangar,
with two of us?
we're both in a really productive mood. 3 hours.
So about 3 hours, probably closer to 4, depending on what we have to do.
Now I have to apologize because a couple of episodes ago, I was working somewhere else on the helicopter, and someone asked me about the gun's aiming apparatus, and I mistakenly described an apparatus where the gunner's helmet had what's called a heads-up display built into the helmet, and none of what we're looking at here was required. The gunner could simply aim the crosshairs built into his visor, and that would at whatever target, and that would bring the gun to that position. That was one or two upgrades after this model. What this Cobra has is a sort of a halfway point between having a fixed gun and having the helmet thing. We have an aiming apparatus similar to that, but you'd be focusing on the crosshairs inside of this mechanism here. The gunner, in addition to this equipment, excuse me, also has a complete duplicate of the flying controls that the pilot operates. In case in the unfortunate instance of the pilot becoming incapacitated, the gunner can also fly the helicopter. So the gunner had to be a very talented individual. One, capable of flying the helicopter, and two, familiar with the operation of the armament.
We have our first question. How cramped is it in there?
Very.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm in here pretty snug, and I wear pants with a 32-inch waist. So I think when the Army was going through, the Marines were going through their selection process of potential gunners and pilots, that was one of the requirements. Not necessarily a 32-inch waist, but I would guess that someone over 220 pounds in weight would find this uncomfortable.
The question, how fast does the Sea Cobra go?
The Sea Cobra goes 175 miles an hour in cruise, and it could go, top speed is 220 miles an hour. So if you're trying to escape something, you might want to bump up the throttle, but you need to bear in mind there's a lot of things to think about. The distance back to the aircraft carrier, and if you have enough fuel to get back to the aircraft carrier, and if you're going to try at 220 miles an hour, that's going to drain a lot of fuel. So, yeah, flying this, just like flying any aircraft, there are a multitude of circumstances to consider.
So range on this thing would be about how much, like on a full tank?
4 hours.
Yeah.
We don't really talk in distance because wind conditions have such a dramatic effect on what you can do. We think about endurance. Like for instance, I'm a private pilot and I have my own airplane, and it has, with a full tank, I can fly nonstop for 5 hours. Now the airplane flies roughly 100 miles an hour. So in zero wind conditions, that means I can fly, if my bladder will let me, I can fly 500 miles in one shot. That's zero wind, but that's a extremely rare condition.
Peter, you have a personal shout out. JC says hi.
Oh,
JC.
hi, JC. We love JC. There are a number of tools and whatnot around here that still have JC's name on them, and she'll forever be a presence in this building as far as I'm concerned. Hi, JC.
We have a hot pink brush that she painted. It's hideous, but we kept it.
We also have a question from Carl Lesko. How long at full speed?
How long at full speed? I don't know.
We can get back to
But I'll try it. We'll fill this baby up and we'll see how it goes. All right.
I really enjoy you just included your bladder as a metric.
All right, Kate, I'm going to come around and you can.
They said raw, and it's very honest, and it's a real metric.
Like I was using curse words or anything.
No, if you got to pee while you're in here, you gotta go. You gotta go.
So tell us a little bit about the cockpit.
So it has, like Peter said, both have the ability to fly in case something happens. This actually has a double engine, which is not, well, it's usually pretty standard for the Navy and anything flying over water, because if one engine fails, they're hoping that you don't go down. So you'll have reduced power, but you can at least try to get to safety. In here, I have like your usual joystick, and then I have all kinds of other things. We have our altimeter, we have our speed, everything else like that. And it's actually kind of fun because the altimeter says 0, which is great because that's true. That's what we're hoping. And everything is aligned with the horizon, also what we're hoping. So it is surprisingly level here today.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are these things next to your heads? Sorry, these plates.
Oh, they're armor. So if something is shooting and it goes through the glass, this is armor to try and help the pilot stay alive. And obviously we would have helmets on and we would have things like that.
It's more against like small arms fire.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ground
Yeah, ground fire. Peter, where's the ashtray?
Okay.
It should be to the
Oh
side.
yeah, I have it.
So in the 70s, for some reason, you could smoke in here. My side doesn't have it.
I have the same ashtray that you would find in like a 1967 Camaro.
So mine doesn't have it, but his does. And I found this randomly in here. I forgot it was in here, and I salvaged it and cleaned it up because it was completely rusted out. But yeah, so on Peter's side, it kind of rests next to your right hand because I guess they assumed most smokers were right-handed, which is weird because I'm imagining flying with my left and smoking with my right. But Yeah, the 70s was wild.
Wait, you don't have an ashtray back there?
No, I don't.
I guess they figured the gunner. had
The gunner
time for
needs
a
it the
cigarette.
most. Maybe it's
Well-
for weed. Maybe you needed a joint if you were being the gunner.
It's a hot box.
Right.
Boxing. So yeah, that's a neat feature that we found. It's kind of fun when we go through things like this and we actually get inside of the cockpits because we find all kinds of things that you never really thought would be in here.
Right. Sometimes personal items.
Personal items. Sometimes we find old paperwork, which is a cool one. I found some up where Peter is, and we actually gave it to exhibits to put away in the archive because protecting paper is a very specific thing. But yeah, we get a chance to really find some cool stuff. And of course, every time I'm in here, I gotta play with some of the switches that obviously this thing doesn't fly, but some of them, like where am I at?
So what are the primary controllers in this? So you've got foot pedals, like
I
a
have-
regular
I have-
helicopter?
Foot pedals
Yep.
that kind of move. I have my joystick that
Yeah.
does not move.
And this
Cyclic.
on your left, this
Yeah.
is the speed control, which would be very similar to the throttle on a motorcycle. It's a twist grip throttle, and it's mounted to the top of an immobile now. But
Well, let me come around there, Peter.
okay,
If you can explain that to us.
sure.
Yeah, his will be easier to see. Did you know when you were spinning that, it did mine too?
Yes, it should be. The front and rear are permanently locked together, work in unison.
I usually assume everything's locked.
All right.
So this piece right here, this is what I was describing. This is the twist grip throttle control, and it's covered with. It goes back to my skateboard days. It's covered with grip tape, because I imagine your hand probably gets sweaty when you're in combat. And anyway, it's frozen right now, but this you'd be able to swing this back and forth and slide this back and forth. And this is called the collective control. And what this does is it changes the pitch of all of the of both rotor blades in unison. So it would be used to control the helicopter's up and down movement. Climbing or descending would be controlled here. Over here,
Let me come up.
swing this a little bit over there. Over here, you see what looks like it's more familiar as the control stick that a pilot would be using. And this is the collective, and this is called the cyclic control. And what this does is it changes the pitch of the rotor blades only in a percentage of their arc. And what I mean by that is if you want to move the helicopter, not up or down, but left or right, you would change the position of this. So if I move this to the left, the helicopter will just slowly move to the left. Now the rudder pedals, or it doesn't have a rudder, but what in a fixed wing airplane would be called rudder pedals. What it does is it changes the yaw of the helicopter. For instance, I want to point the nose of the helicopter that way. I would do that using the rudder pedals. And the way they work, instead of a rudder, what they're doing is they're changing the pitch of the tail rotor on the rear of the helicopter. So if I hit the left rudder pedal, the pitch would decrease and the tail would move to the right, the nose would move to the left, and vice versa. So it's kind of quite a choreographed thing, flying a helicopter.
It takes a lot more skill, would you say? I mean, don't get in trouble, but
I don't know about skill. It's yeah, you need to take lessons to learn how to fly a helicopter, like you need to take lessons to fly a piano, play a piano.
yeah.
But as opposed to a fixed wing airplane, which is sort of it's meant to fly. The primary reason the pilot is there in a fixed wing airplane is to guide it. If the pilot became incapacitated, most likely the airplane would continue flying. A helicopter, the pilot is coordinating a group of forces that are working against each other to make the helicopter fly. So it's a different thing.
Any questions, Tom?
Yeah, we got one coming in. What ordinance did the Sea Cobra carry?
Oh boy, that's a whole. Oh, have you got 20 minutes? Probably. Well, they tried out there's what it usually flew with, and there's the wide range of experimental things that the Department of Defense thought would be a good weapon, and then found out later, well, no, it doesn't work. Anyway, the most popular ordnance that this helicopter flew with were unguided rockets. You see on the wing, there's two stub wings on either side of this machine, and they could carry the largest load would be 2 containers on each side, and each of those containers could carry 19 of these unguided rockets. They were small in diameter, 2.75 inches in diameter, and being unguided, when the pilot was using them, he would need to be as close as possible to the target, because once they were fired, we're sending them in that general direction, and we're going to cross our fingers. It's sort of like a much larger version of a shotgun, if you can imagine that you're essentially spraying weaponry. But that was the most popular one, as I have pored over photographs of this, that seemed to be the most frequent stuff I saw.
Another question. Can you tell the story of how the Sea Cobra arrived at Intrepid?
Okay, I'm going to hand that one to Kate. I'm sorry to make you work again, William.
All right, hold on.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
Go easy.
After this, I want to hear more of your skateboard days.
Oh, no. Now you're throwing me under the bus.
A little bit.
All right. So
Yeah.
you tell the story, and I'll correct you like every 15 seconds.
For the love of God. No, he's not. He's not kidding. So when Sea Cobra got here, this is the only aircraft we have that landed under its own power on the flight deck. So the guys came in, they landed nicely, didn't dent anything, which was great. And we always joke that they just took a taxi home. We don't know how they left. So when this arrived, because it was an active aircraft, the fuel had to be dumped, oils had to be dumped. It truly had to be cleaned out of all fluids. In addition to that, the ejector seats that are in here needed to be disarmed. So thankfully, if one of us accidentally pulls the lever, which I don't really know why you would, other than testing it, he asked me if I wanted to be Goose earlier, and I was like, doesn't that mean I don't make it? But that's all disarmed. We always make sure, obviously, as you saw with the wings, the ordnance is gone. that we're trying, if anybody has some dummy ordnance, we're really trying to get some for this. It would be very nice to have. But yeah, one of the main things that we do is make sure that the aircraft is safe to be on deck and that it's also safe to be around in the first place, because if this had fuel and everything else in it, that would be an absolute disaster. One of the cool, I'm gonna lean out of here. Can I reach it? No. So this is where you'd put fuel in, and Peter has painted it yellow to make it, which is what it was, to make it obvious. And one of the things that you'll be able to see around it, I'm not sure if you can see it right now, is that there's kind of a sheen, like an oily in some spots. That's because fuel, it never officially comes out of things. So that's actually stained the side of the helicopter at this point. And it's just a little bit, the whole idea is conservation is to keep as many things as possible to the original state that we have. Not necessarily make everything perfect and things like that, because what you want to do is you want to tell the story of the aircraft itself. And in that genre, it also includes keeping things that we didn't do before we had these. So sometimes you'll find a marking that somebody added in the first place, and it'll be one of those things where you still want to keep some of that because it's part of the aircraft story. It's not all what happened in 1972 here. So that's really, we try and keep quite a bit of it cleaned up and leave the artifacts that come with it, because this is an artifact. This will never fly again. Think of it like a very cool statue that won't fit in most people's yards. But it's one of those things where what we do here is preserve artifacts.
I have one correction.
Yes.
All right. On that note, hang on, let me come around.
All right.
I knew you'd have something.
You did an awesome job. But earlier, close to the beginning of your description, you mentioned ejection seats. This helicopter is not equipped with ejection seats.
And what is this thing in front of me for pulling?
I'm going to explain that.
Oh.
This helicopter had what is called a det cord mechanism, and where this lever you see, which looks like an ejection seat lever, what it would do is it would essentially blow the canopy apart. The frame would stay in place, but this door and the doors back there, it has been removed, but in the rubber weather sealed molding around the windows, there's a groove, and in that groove it has all been removed at substantial expense, an explosive cord, basically a twine that was explosive. And by pulling this lever, which would be your ejection seat lever, you basically blow out all the glass so you can climb out in case the windows, if an emergency landing occurred and this door that you see open here were unusable, the pilot and the gunner would still be able to escape. Now there's another system on the exterior of the helicopter where if ground personnel had come upon a helicopter that had crashed and the pilot and the gunner were unconscious or incapacitated to the point where they could not activate this system, this same system I was describing to you can be activated from outside the helicopter by rescue personnel.
All right. We've got one last question. When will the Sea Cobra be finished?
The Sea Cobra will be finished in a matter of hours. Yes.
Don't lie to these people.
Yes. Okay. To be honest, I have a time window of Monday through Wednesday of next week to get this baby out of here.
Okay. Well, let's wrap this up and
Okay, great. Thank you for coming. We hope you come again next week, same time, same channel, for another installment of aircraft restoration bonanza. Is that the word?
I don't know.
Aircraft restoration adventures.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
Toodles.